He was just the janitor, and she was the doctor everyone admired. And oh, one knew their silent glances in a crowded hospital hallway would become a love story strong enough to change two families forever. Because sometimes destiny doesn't arrive with fireworks, it arrives quietly, in the sound of a mop sliding across a floor, in a tired doctor's smile at 3 a.m., in two strangers who have no idea how deeply they will heal each other. And this story begins on a night when one small act of kindness changed everything. Andre had walked the hospital halls for 5 years, quiet, steady, unseen by most, yet relied upon by everyone. With broad shoulders built from long shifts and a gentle heart shaped by hardship, he carried burdens no one else could see. His mother's medical debt shadowed every paycheck, and his younger sister's college fees rested on his conscience like an unspoken promise he refused to break. Still, he smiled, worked hard, and helped wherever he could. That was Andre, strong and silenced a doctor. Leona, on the other hand, moved through the same halls with the calm grace of someone who healed for a living. Brilliant, composed, and respected by every nurse. She was the doctor who remembered every patient's name and treated every staff member with dignity. Her silver-streaked hair framed a face that rarely showed exhaustion. But hidden beneath her professional calm was a loneliness no medical chart could diagnose. She gave the world her compassion, yet went home to an empty apartment every night. Their world should never have touched. Yet somehow, they did it started with the smallest moments. Andre holding the door when her hands were full, Leona offering him coffee during a late-night shift, a shared nod across the busy hallway. Andre noticed the softness of her voice, the way her silver hair glimmered under the fluorescent lights, and the kindness she showed to everyone, even the invisible ones. Leona noticed how quickly he fixed things no one else could repair, how he worked with quiet intelligence, and how his eyes always carried warmth despite the weight he carried. Before either of them spoke a single word of affection, something formed. Not loud, not obvious, but real, an unspoken connection, that a bond built from glances, gestures, and the quiet understanding that sometimes two hearts recognize each other long before love is given a name. The hospital break room was quiet that night, the fluorescent lights buzzing softly overhead, casting a pale glow over empty chairs and half-finished mugs of coffee. Andre lingered by the doorway, hesitant, heart pounding louder than the humming refrigerators. He had seen Dr. Leona countless times before, always graceful, always composed, always in control. But tonight, as she sat alone at the corner table, her shoulders slightly slumped and her eyes shadowed with fatigue, she looked human, vulnerable. Real. That Andre's mind flashed back to his mother's voice, warm and firm. Life is too short to let fear stop you, Andre. If you want something, you go for it. Don't wait for the perfect moment. It might never come. He swallowed hard, gripping the edge of the counter as if it could steady his nerves. He had spent years watching her, caring for the patients she treated, noticing every small kindness, every laugh she offered to nurses and staff. And yet, he had never dared to imagine that someone like her could even notice him. But tonight, he told himself that didn't matter. Tonight, he would take the risk. Andre walked in, the floor creaking softly under his boots. Leona looked up, startled for just a moment, her tired eyes meeting his. He saw a flicker of curiosity and perhaps a tiny spark of anticipation before she returned to her cup of tea. Dr. Leona, he began, voice steadier than he expected. I know this is a bit sudden, but would you maybe go with me to the hospital's charity gala? The words hung in the air. Andre's chest tightened, but he forced himself to stay. Leona blinked, a laugh escaping her lips, soft and musical, carrying equal parts surprise and warmth. The hospital gala, she asked, voice tinged with amusement, disbelief, and a touch of nerves. You wanted to go with you? Andre nodded, unsure whether he looked braver or foolish. Yes, he said simply. I think it would be nice. For us. Her laughter softened into a smile, radiant even under the harsh overhead lights. I would love to, she said. Andre felt his chest lift as if the air itself had turned lighter. The break room suddenly seemed smaller, more intimate. He glanced around at the staff coming and going, some raising eyebrows, some whispering. Word spread quickly. A janitor and a doctor together? The hospital was buzzing, incredulous, but Andre didn't notice. He wasn't thinking about gossip or class or appearances. All that mattered was the smile that had formed on Leona's face, a smile that seemed to reach into the deepest corners of his heart and pull out something he had never dared feel before. Leona, for her part, ignored the whispers too. She didn't care about what others thought, not tonight. Something about Andre, the quiet strength, the gentle dedication, the way he always noticed the little things, made her feel seen in a way she hadn't felt in years. And as she looked at him, she realized this night wasn't about a gala or formalities. It was about stepping into something real, something uncharted but undeniably alive. They sat together for a while longer, talking quietly about small things, the gala, their favorite music, the strangest patients they had encountered that week. Andre was careful, hesitant at first, but with every word, every glance, every shared laugh, the ice around his heart melted a little. Leona found herself laughing more freely than she had in months, the tension in her shoulders easing as she felt a quiet companionship forming. By the time they stood to leave, the hospital break room was empty, silent again. Andre offered his hand, and she took it without hesitation. That small gesture, so simple, yet so full of unspoken meaning, sealed something between them. Outside, the crisp night air greeted them like a secret shared. The world seemed larger, and yet, somehow, it felt like it existed only for the two of them. Andre glanced at Leona, seeing not just the admired doctor, but the person she had quietly revealed to him. The woman behind the charts, the one with laughter, warmth, and a heart that matched his own in its quiet strength. For the first time, Andre stopped worrying about the world around him. Leona stopped guarding herself against it. And together, they stepped forward into something neither had expected, but both desperately needed. That night, as they walked toward the gala, Andre realized he had taken the risk. Leona realized she had accepted it. And for the first time, in the middle of a world defined by roles and expectations, something real, something enduring, had begun. It wasn't fireworks. It wasn't a grand announcement. It was quieter, softer, yet infinitely more powerful. A connection built on courage, respect, and the fragile, beautiful possibility of love. And in that quiet, fleeting moment, the two different worlds that had collided in the hospital hallway found their first, tentative harmony. The night of the hospital charity gala was unlike anything Andre had ever experienced. He stood at the entrance, dressed in a rented tuxedo that felt stiff and unfamiliar, the scent of polished shoes and starched fabric foreign to him. Around him, the world shimmered with chandeliers, velvet drapes, and the low murmur of 100 well-dressed guests. For someone used to hospital corridors and break rooms, this was a stage where every misstep seemed magnified. Whispers followed them as they walked in together. The janitor with Dr. Leona, some looked shocked, others amused, a few clearly judgmental. People nudged each other, raising eyebrows and stealing glances. Andre felt the weight of the stairs, his hands tightening around Leona's. But when she squeezed his hand gently, he felt a courage he hadn't known he possessed. They moved toward the dance floor, past the glittering tables, past the murmurs. And then, somehow, they found a bubble of their own, a small, private world in the midst of the gala's grandeur. Andre tried to follow the rhythm of the music, his movements clumsy, stiff, and hopelessly offbeat. Leona laughed, a sound full of warmth and amusement, reaching into the core of his nervousness. "You have an interesting style," she teased, a playful smile tugging at her lips. He laughed too, finally allowing himself to relax. Each awkward step, each missed beat, melted under her light-hearted laughter. For a brief moment, the gala ceased to exist, leaving only the two of them. The music, the lights, the whispers, all disappeared. Then, in the quiet between songs, Leona looked at him with an intensity he had never seen. Her eyes held a vulnerability, a truth she had kept hidden for years. She swallowed and finally spoke, her voice soft but steady. "There's something I need to tell you, something I haven't told anyone." Andre froze, searching her face. "I'm Howard Mercer's daughter," she admitted, the words hanging like fragile glass between them. "My father. He's one of the richest and most powerful men in the medical world. Everyone sees me as that. But you see me as me." Her voice faltered, shadowed with fear and anticipation. Andre blinked, absorbing the weight of her confession. He thought of the gala, the whispers, the judgmental looks, and then he looked at her, the woman who had quietly captivated his heart with her warmth, her intelligence, her laughter. "I care about you, not your father's money," he said simply, his voice calm but unwavering. The sincerity in his tone made her heart ache with relief. That Leona's eyes widened, disbelief and hope warring for dominance. In that single moment, she felt something she hadn't in years, truly seen, truly understood, and utterly accepted. Not as a Mercer, not as a doctor, not as the daughter of someone powerful, but as herself. The music shifted to a slow, tender tune. Andre took her hand again, and they moved together, finding a rhythm that was theirs alone. She rested her head lightly against his shoulder, her laughter soft and genuine, no longer hiding behind professional composure. He smiled down at her, marveling at how someone so brilliant could be so effortlessly real. Around them, the gala continued, whispers, judging eyes, and the glittering grandeur, but they didn't care. For the first time, they were no longer Andre the janitor and Dr. Leona Mercer. They were simply two people, hearts open, discovering something rare and undeniable: connection, trust, and love. When the song ended, they stepped back slightly, and Leona looked at him with a mixture of gratitude and awe. "I didn't think anyone could see me like this," she whispered. "You've been right in front of me all along," Andre said, his thumb brushing against her hand. "I just had to notice." Leona laughed softly again, a melody of relief, hope, and something more, something they both felt but had yet to name. And in that quiet moment, amid the swirl of gowns and tuxedos, the judgment and whispers of others faded completely. They left the dance floor hand in hand, stepping into a world that had once seemed impossible. Outside, the gala lights sparkled like distant stars, but it was the light in each other's eyes that truly guided them. For the first time, Andre didn't feel small or out of place. And for the first time, Leona didn't feel alone. That night marked a turning point. It was a night where whispers of judgment could not touch what was real between them. It was a night where courage met truth, where vulnerability became strength, and where two hearts from vastly different worlds began to beat in quiet, steadfast harmony. And no matter what the world saw, no matter the differences in wealth or status, for the first time, they both understood something profound. Love isn't about the world noticing you. It's about being noticed truly and completely by the one who matters most. And in that realization, something unbreakable began to take root. Love, Andre and Leona soon discovered, was never meant to be hurried. It grew slowly, quietly, like a vine winding its way around a sturdy trellis, patient, persistent, and beautiful. Every shared coffee in the hospital break room, every whispered conversation in empty hallways, every gentle smile across a crowded floor built something stronger than attraction. It was a love that didn't announce itself with fireworks. It announced itself in small, unwavering gestures, in acts of kindness and understanding that spoke louder than words ever could. But as their bond deepened, the world around them began to notice. People whispered, curious and judgmental eyes, following them through hospital corridors and gala events alike. A janitor and a doctor? Surely impossible. Even some colleagues, well-meaning but narrow-minded, questioned how such a pairing could exist. And looming above it all was Howard Mercer, Leona's father. Powerful, exacting, and accustomed to seeing the world in terms of influence and wealth, He could not fathom why his brilliant, accomplished daughter would choose someone like Andre. Andre felt the weight of that disapproval. It stung, but never broke him. He didn't have money, connections, or a title, but he had integrity, humility, and an unshakable character. Every day, he showed up, worked harder than anyone expected, learned whatever he could, and quietly proved that worth wasn't measured in dollars or pedigree. It was measured in heart, in effort, in the courage to be real. Leona, for her part, refused to let her father's expectations dictate her happiness. She chose Andre again and again, in public and in private. She stood beside him in hallways buzzing with gossip, in staff rooms thick with judgment, and at gala events where whispers followed their every step. "I choose him," she would say quietly to herself when doubts crept in, and every time she said it, the bond between them grew stronger. Months passed, filled with laughter, shared secrets, and quiet moments that belonged only to them. Andre's dedication never wavered. He studied, worked harder, and continued to prove that love was not only in words but in deeds. And slowly, the world around them began to shift. Eventually, the day came when Howard Mercer himself agreed to meet Andre. The young man stood tall, modest but confident, eyes steady and honest. He didn't speak of money or influence. He spoke of his love for Leona, of the respect he held for her brilliance, and of the values that guided his every step. Howard watched closely, expecting arrogance, expecting weakness, expecting inadequacy. But what he saw instead was something far rarer, a heart that made his daughter glow, a soul shaped by courage, kindness, and unshakable integrity. It was a quiet revelation for Howard, more powerful than any business negotiation or boardroom triumph. Respect replaced judgment. Acceptance replaced pride. And in that moment, he saw not just a janitor, but a man worthy of his daughter's love, a man whose value was measured not in wealth but in heart. The change rippled outward. Colleagues who had once whispered now offered smiles. Hospital staff who had raised eyebrows now greeted them with warmth. The dissonance between worlds began to fade, replaced by harmony, understanding, and the undeniable proof that love knows no barriers. And then came the day when the families finally came together. A quiet dinner, simple and intimate, where laughter filled the room and walls once thick with expectation melted away. Andre's sister and mother met Leona, discovering not only a kind-hearted woman, but someone who embraced them with open arms. Howard, sitting beside Andre at the table, listened and smiled, realizing that love had done what money, influence, and control could never accomplish. It had united two families, bridging worlds once thought impossible to reconcile. Leona, radiant and confident, rested her hand on Andre's, her eyes meeting his with the calm assurance of someone who had chosen her path, and chosen it wisely. Andre, standing beside her, felt a sense of belonging deeper than any title or recognition. Here, in the acceptance of both families, he was seen fully, loved fully, and respected truly. That it was a love that had broken barriers, defied expectations, and reshaped hearts. It was a love that had begun with glances in a hospital hallway and had grown into a force that united families, strengthened spirits, and proved that the most extraordinary connections are built not on wealth, power, or status, but on the simple, enduring power of heart. Years later, when people whispered about the unlikely pairing of a doctor and a janitor, Andre and Leona would smile knowingly. They understood the truth. Love had its own rules, its own pace, and its own reward. And theirs had been worth every risk, every glance, every small act of courage that had led them here. In the end, it wasn't about the whispers or the judgment. It wasn't about wealth or titles, nor the disapproval of powerful men. It was about choosing each other every day in every way. It was about proving through patience, integrity, and unwavering love that hearts can cross any divide, break any barrier, and create a world where respect, acceptance, and family flourish. Andre and Leona had built something enduring, something that would outlast whispers, outlast expectations, and outlast every obstacle the world had tried to place between them. And in that love, they found home. The hospital courtyard had never looked more beautiful. Flowers bloomed along the edges, their colors vibrant under the soft afternoon sun and the gentle hum of the hospital. The place where their story had quietly begun seemed to cheer them on. Andre, once the janitor who walked these halls with quiet dignity, now stood tall in a crisp engineer's suit. Beside him, Leona radiated the same brilliance she had always held, now channeled into free clinics that brought care and hope to those who needed it most. They exchanged vows where their journey had started, surrounded by colleagues, friends, and family who had witnessed the improbable but undeniable love story unfold. As Leona's hand rested in Andre's, a smile touched both their lips, a smile filled with years of courage, perseverance, and unwavering devotion. Every glance told a story of trials overcome, of whispers ignored, of hearts bravely reaching across divides. Years passed, and life bloomed in the quietest, most profound ways. Their twin daughters ran through the halls of their home, laughter echoing off the walls, unaware of the boundaries their parents had crossed, but fully aware of the love that held them. And in the kitchen, music playing softly from a small speaker, Andre and Leona would dance like they did that night at the gala, awkward, joyful, and completely themselves. Every spin, every laugh, every step carried the memory of courage, the thrill of vulnerability, and the magic of a love that had refused to bend to the world's expectations. They taught their daughters that love was never about status, wealth, or titles. It was about seeing a person's soul, recognizing their kindness, their strength, and their heart. And their daughters grew up knowing that true love, real love, was patient, brave, and rooted in respect and authenticity. Even Howard Mercer, years later on his deathbed, found the courage to speak. With a faint smile, his voice soft but full of gratitude, he looked at Andre and said, "Thank you for giving my daughter a life filled with purpose, joy, and true love. She glows because of you." Andre nodded, emotions held in check, and squeezed Leona's hand gently. In that quiet room, amid whispered words and fading light, they understood that every small risk, every whispered confession, every moment of courage had led them here. It had all started with a simple act of bravery. A janitor noticing a brilliant doctor sitting alone and asking with a nervous smile and racing heart, "Would you like to dance?" That question had set in motion a lifetime of love, proving that sometimes the smallest gestures, spoken from the heart, hold the power to change everything. And in the end, Andre and Leona's story was not about titles, wealth, or social expectation. It was about courage, connection, and a love so profound it transcended all barriers. Their hearts, once quietly recognizing each other in a hospital hallway, now beat together in harmony, forever. Love doesn't care about job titles, last names, or the rules society tries to impose. It notices kindness, celebrates courage, and recognizes the heart when the world only sees status. Andre wasn't just a janitor. Leona wasn't just a doctor. They were two souls bold enough to cross invisible lines, to embrace what truly mattered. Sometimes, the most extraordinary love stories begin quietly, in break rooms, in hallways, in fleeting glances that linger longer than anyone expects. And often, all it takes is one act of courage, one simple question to change the course of a lifetime.